Okay. Let's just get started. Fuck it.
You got your notepad?
What's that?
You got your notepad?
I do.
Okay.
So this is our inaugural podcast.
Seminal.
Yeah. We're going to call this Harry and Andrew Have Nothing Better to Do.
Perfect.
I think it's magnificent, personally. Let me turn down my volume.
I like how you listed my name first. That's nice.
So, okay. In this show, we're going to talk about horror movies to start. We're going to mess with the format as we go along, figure some stuff out, what works best for us, and people that actually listen to this shitty show. But I am one of your hosts, Andrew Woodard, and this is my co-host,
Harry Minner.
Do you want to not introduce yourself like it's like the first day of class?
Hi, my name is Harry.
Yeah, and what's your major, Harry?
It was digital film production. Then it went to business admin, I believe. That was my final.
The things we learn. And in this format, we're going to start, like I said, we're going to start off with horror movies, but then we're kind of picking one that neither of us watched, or it's been a really long time since one of us saw it, or the other person hasn't seen it. So it's basically like we haven't seen it. And we're just going to dive into what we think about these movies and why. And
whether or not you should watch them yourself.
Yeah, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Or it's a curse.
So we kind of do the one that neither of us have seen, and then we both suggest a film to the other person. But we'll watch all three films each week and go through them and just have a good time. We're here to fuck around, chew bubblegum.
Oh,
what do you want to start with?
I don't know. Whatever you want to do.
That's not a real answer.
That's not a real answer.
We have three choices.
Well, let's save the good one for last. Let's. Why don't we talk about? Let's talk about Frailty first. Right. The one that we neither of us saw.
Okay. So that's not entirely true. I have seen it.
Oh, you liar!
I did not lie.
We're starting off.
I told you.
Yeah, but you said that we need to find a movie we haven't.
What was I gonna do? Lie to the audience?
Yeah. Okay.
And
when did you watch it?
Oh God, I think I saw it. I think I saw 3/4 of it on TV, probably in 2003.
Okay, and this movie came out. Okay, so Frailty, 2001, directed by Bill Paxton, stars Bill Paxton, Matthew McConaughey, and Powers Booth. Labeled as a what? As a crime, thriller, horror.
Let's reference IMDb.
Yeah, why don't you go and see what the genre is listed, because it's like 8.
Yeah, it's well, and then they have these very interesting. Actually, it's Netflix that now has the really interesting tags on their stuff of like, oh, this is a raw movie, or like
on Shudder,
butt clenching movie.
Yeah, butt clenching. Yeah, they have like, for the gay horror fans, we've got the LGBTQ horror section.
Shudder.
Shudder. And then we've got movies that have tits in them. And
I haven't seen that category yet. Where's that one?
And machete slashers. I mean, all the subgenres.
Do I have to change my settings in Netflix?
Yes. To check the box, titties, redheads, all
that. Okay, so on IMDb, this is labeled as crime, drama, thriller. This is going to be a very common theme as we go through films, because what we deem as horror, it seems very subjective. What the internet, what different databases deem as horror seems to change depending on the day.
Well, we've had this conversation before. If you're going to do a multi-genre movie, usually just pick 2. Like, if you're going to do, like, Alien is considered sci-fi horror. Aliens would be action horror. Well, I mean, action sci-fi, because it's not really a horror movie.
But it is.
It has horrific elements, but would you consider Jurassic Park a horror movie? It has horror scenes
based off of certain conditions. Yes,
but I would say that's more of like what a fantasy.
It's definitely not labeled
blockbuster
as a horror movie.
I know, but
sure.
you've got you got the T-Rex and you get the raptor scene. I don't know.
I think the difference being that Aliens is rated R and Jurassic Park is PG-13,
which is ridiculous because Jurassic Park might as well be R, but there's no language in it.
It's just not as gory.
Yeah,
where Aliens is, I think either one will fuck with your sleep if you're a kid.
I think the T-Rex scene alone is good enough. I don't know.
It's more realistic that we bring dinosaurs back to life than us.
Yeah. Going to
Queen.
Yeah, fighting on an alien planet.
Okay, so
speaking of Bill Paxton,
let's go ahead. Keep going about Frailty. Give us a basic overview.
Okay, so basic. We'll try not to spoil a whole bunch if you want to go watch it. But movie opens up with Powers Booth. He works for the FBI, and a guy has shown up in his office late at night saying that he knows who this serial killer is they've been tracking, and it's Matthew McConaughey. He comes in, he's confiding with Powers Booth that it's his brother. His brother is the serial killer they've been looking for, and it's a series of flashbacks. And him and his brother were raised by Bill Paxton, and Bill Paxton had this awakening one night that he thought he saw an angel, and the angel spoke to him, and the angel told him that they needed to kill demons. There's demons walking among us, and we need to go after them. We've been sent by God to cleanse the earth, essentially. And so it's the story kind of from the perspective of the kids about being raised by a dad who's either a serial killer or he is doing the work of God. And I don't know, neat premise, super neat premise.
Yep. Written by Bill Paxton, right?
Is it? No, it's written by somebody else. I think he just directed and acted.
Brett
Hanley, right? Yeah, I don't know. Let's. You want to go over the pros and then we can tear it apart.
Sure. Pros, as in PROS, not book pros.
With the E at the end. Yeah. Okay. Jokes, he's got them, folks.
Well, yeah. Okay, so pros. Bill Paxton, he's a pro for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Not a professional pro, but
I think I think the definition of professional is subjective. I think that as a working actor, he's probably the best there is. Like, he's not there for the celebrity status or the paycheck. Obviously, this movie couldn't have. What was the budget again? It's kind of surprising when we looked at it.
The budget was higher than we had anticipated. I think it was like 20. It was $11 million.
11 million. Okay.
It barely made its money back at its $17 million.
But I think the difference, like we've talked about before, is Bill Paxton he's a working actor. Like, he's not a character actor where he's got some movies under his belt and he had some decent roles, like at least popular enough that people recognize him. But I mean, he's there to act. I think that's the difference. Is like, I think Matthew McConaughey in this movie is just there for the paycheck because he's barely in the movie.
Either that or, there were extra scenes filmed
and they just cut it all.
Yeah, just weren't put in the edited finish.
Yeah. But either way, he's good in this movie. I mean, he plays a decent dad that has this weird spiritual awakening one night and telling him that he needs to abandon his purpose in life and go after these demons and kill them, which to the one kid, the older brother, is he might as well be a serial killer because these people are, from his perspective, they're not doing anything wrong.
Right.
So it's this struggle of like, do I follow my father? Do I reject him? And I think those scenes, they work. It's just
the idea works.
Yeah.
It's not the scene itself because of poor direction. Bill Paxton is not a director, and as we looked at
I think this is the only other movie. Well, he did two movies. This and shoot,
it's one of the quiz questions. So
oh, is it a quiz question? Okay, we'll do that later.
It's lacking in a lot of categories. That's
okay. So pros: Bill Paxton and concept.
That's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah. That would be about it. I would say 1 or 2 scenes worked, quote unquote,
Sure.
while still having issues.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly, to me, it's the kids. I would say the kid actors really took me out of it.
Oh yeah, it turns the movie into a cartoon at times because at certain points where like these scenes are supposed to be really dark and compelling, like they just become a laugh. You know, you're just laughing because they cut to these kids and the reaction shots are terrible. Like I want to know what they're filming the kid. Okay, you're watching somebody get murdered. Go. Blank stare. No.
He opened his mouth a little bit, though. I mean, the problem is that the editing and the feel of it feels very early 2000s.
Direct to video.
Direct to video or
almost
made
TV
for TV.
movie. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all over the place with its tone. It has a narrator.
Yeah, so we got the check boxes right. So we've got opening scene, then flashbacks to early childhood.
Yeah,
which is basically the whole movie is cut in between present day and in the 70s or 80s or whatever it's supposed to be.
It's 1979, I think.
So yeah, so you're cutting back and forth, and you've got Matthew McConaughey narrating the entire movie. Pretty much, either his scenes were cut or they just did 2 scenes with him for 1 week, and then he did a voiceover for the rest of the paycheck.
We'll just bring him into the sound studio.
Okay, sound sad. All right, I can sound sad.
I mean, part of that issue is that like there is no real. I don't know where the hell we are.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Are we in the South? I assume we are. I'm sure they say it. It's a small town.
But Bill Paxton doesn't have an accent.
Bill Paxton doesn't
Powers
have an accent.
Booth attempts it for a minute.
Powers Booth is...
it's Powers Booth!
He tries it for the first couple minutes, and then he just gives up completely on the accent. The past, when they go back to 1979 when they're kids and stuff like that, it feels like it's the 50s or the 60s.
Yeah,
like,
oh,
Peggy Sue's gonna give me a kiss down the street, and they got their overalls on, and you're like, what?
What's on TV today? We got a Laugh-In and Roy Rogers.
Well, and at first we both were watching it and we were going, this feels on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's told from Matthew McConaughey's perspective, which is one of the kids as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, either he's trying to like give a false sense of what it was like how great it was. It was the classic dad comes home, mom's God knows
right,
where.
So it's the whole unreliable narrators. We're getting it from his perspective, so it's not 100% accurate.
Yeah,
so
but if you watch the whole film, it doesn't...
Yeah, they don't keep
There's
that
no
tone.
reason for it. It doesn't mean anything to us at the end of the movie. You go back and watch this beginning and you go, it doesn't matter. Well, you could have just told the truth if this was a lie.
Right. I think it would be more interesting if Bill Paxton was like a shitty father, and then he had this awakening, and then he becomes like this almost perfect, and then the kid has this internal struggle. Well, do I want my shitty dad back who maybe drinks and beats me, but at the cost of like, well, he's nice now, but he's also killing people for
he's not doing it to me.
Right, exactly. So maybe, that would play a little bit better, make it more compelling. But it doesn't solve the issues because the movie, even though it was $11 million, and that probably was, obviously with inflation that was higher back then, that it doesn't help that the scenes are just, it feels really lazy at times. It's boring. A lot of the scenes when they're not confronting the people or they're, the dream sequences are probably the better parts of the movie. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, they kept them short.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't overdo them.
I think that's the shame. It's like this whole movie is reliant on the family drama, and the family drama scenes are the worst part of the movie.
Yeah. Well, and as much as I want to sit here and say that was all the kids, it's really not. Like, if you take the beginning and the dialogue in the beginning and you sit there and you say, this sounds like they're making it up, Like it's the classic dad comes home, hey son, you need help with your homework? I'll help you tonight.
Yeah, that would never happen, especially in
real
79.
quick. And, like it's like, you want to take off your shoes or something first? Like,
Okay.
So you have all that, and then you just realize later in the movie that the writing is just not good.
Yeah, all around. Not just the kids, and some of Bill Paxton's lines aren't the greatest.
But I think he took them and did what he could with
Sure, but Powers Booth doesn't try.
Mm-mm.
Matthew McConaughey is just... I mean, I think...
He's a plot pusher. He's
Yeah,
a narrator.
I don't think he's like giving up, but I don't feel like he's even really trying at all. Like, it's this weird middle ground. I don't know.
We write our notes down as we watch these things, and it's like, I'll write down something that'll say, well, maybe that's what they're going for. That's the idea. Because like I said, I saw this 17 years ago or something, and I really enjoyed it before I really got into films. And man, what a massive disappointment.
Oh yeah. Because everybody, when we watch these movies, we also look up like the scores on either Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, and look at some of the reviews that people wrote, whether it's the actual critics or the fan writing. And some of them are like, "Well, this is a hidden gem. It didn't do well at the box office and it has a low budget, but the performances and the story really kind of carry through." And this is not one of the cases. It's just a very just bland. I think that's the biggest description, is that there's some cool, it's a cool concept. There's some interesting ideas here, but it's just, yeah.
And you'll hear us say that a lot too. What a great concept.
Well, I mean,
what terrible execution.
It's tough to make a movie, but at the same time, like this movie, this isn't a big budget blockbuster where like they had the excuses. Well, they had the money to pull this off. This obviously was probably one of those things where like, okay, well, we need to churn out a thriller. Let's give it to Bill Paxton. He's always wanted to direct. He's this actor that we can get in. And then Matthew McConaughey's up and coming. Powers Booth, who's been around for a while. Like, this probably was an easier movie to make. So they're just like, well, people won't think about it. People won't really care. It's got a cool twist. It's dark.
But it doesn't have a cool twist.
No, the twist is terrible.
Bad. It's poorly.
Do you just want to go into
set up.
spoilers and just might as well?
I'm gonna.
Well, okay, so how about this? Would you recommend watching this movie?
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
because it's not fun bad. Like, it's not. We're gonna talk about this movie for 10-15 minutes, and when we get to our third film, we're gonna talk about it a lot longer, because it's so bad at certain points that we just want to talk about all the things
right
that went wrong.
What wrong? Yeah, what was wrong?
And I needed Harry to see it to believe it, because there's no way.
Because I didn't believe him. I figured it would be bad, but I would just turn it off. No, I needed to see it through. Anyway, okay, so Frailty. Okay, so you want to talk about the whole, what's the twist?
The twist is just dumb. I mean, I don't even know if we need to go into explaining what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just say, continuity wise, it makes no sense. You get confused about who did what, who killed who, and it seems so unnecessary.
Yeah, because the ending's pretty cut and dry, is that God did speak to Bill Paxton, and they're not demons, they're just people that do bad things,
right,
and they should be punished. Like, there's this whole sequence at the end, there's these flashbacks where it shows Matthew McConaughey, turns out he's the killer. He was the brother. He swapped the stories while he's talking to Powers Booth, and apparently Powers Booth was he killed his mom, but nobody knew about it before he joined the FBI. When did he kill his mom? Because in the flashback he looks exactly the same. They didn't dye his hair
next to
or
some
anything.
Drying clothesline.
Yeah, he looks like
outside.
a 50-year-old man.
Just stabs her.
Yeah, kills his mom for no reason. Doesn't tell us why.
Yeah, we don't get a backstory.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And then it shows this whole compilation of sequences where the little brother, who Matthew McConaughey is, he touches the people that Bill Paxton is going to kill, because the older brother said, well, I didn't see them transform. They look like normal people. It
I don't
looked like
think
my
he ever
dad was
touched
killing them, just innocent people. And then when the brother touched them, he actually was seeing like what they did. Like,
And the idea is that the older brother is a demon, but it doesn't line up with the other stuff that's happening.
The details that they that they come up with.
I just kind of wrote some other notes down here, like stop cutting to the kids. Like they would constantly cut to the kids for reactions.
I think they were just trying to pat the footage.
They
honestly.
had to have, like because you can't have Bill Paxton carry the whole movie, right? They didn't have a choice, but it still felt like they could have, just kept him brief. Like they'd hold on him for like 10 seconds.
I don't know who was worse to cut to, the older brother who's the main actor, or the younger brother who was in the Peter Pan movie right after it. It
was worse to cut to the older brother than it was the younger.
Yeah. Well, he had the most lines, and it was
yeah. We streamed the movie on a not so legitimate site.
For legal purposes, we streamed it.
We streamed it on an app. And the sound was just off.
Yeah, it kept peaking whenever people yelled.
You had to keep raising and lowering the volume depending on the scene.
Well, we talked about this, that watching movies on like old TVs back in the day, probably like early 2000s when this movie came out, you had to constantly adjust the volume. And I don't think it's the stream or the quality of the file. I think it might just be the movie.
Oh, well, certainly something like that where the rest of the production seemed kind of poor.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised.
Well, the lighting, the editing, all of it was really like, it felt rushed. It felt, well, you got trivia questions for me?
We can do that, or we can save questions for the end.
Well, let's do that. Let's save it for the end then.
Okay, so that's Frailty. There's always more stuff to talk about, but
if you're a diehard Bill Paxton fan, okay,
it's bland. That's the word I can use.
It's
it's
I would say, we watched it so you didn't have
to. Okay, so the second film that Harry picked this one for me was The Innocents from 1961. And with some of these older movies, there's a basic, it's like taking The Third Man from 1940 and watching it and you go, wow, this is a really basic story. Well, back then it was considered an original, right? Like that's the original, that's kind of where it came from. And The Innocents is kind of like that, but they still did some stuff that I don't see in films today or since 1961. But essentially a woman at the very beginning is getting hired by these two kids' uncle who's rich. He doesn't want to take care of them anymore. He just wants to hire a governess to go to this estate and take care of his niece and his nephew.
So I think the movie's supposed to take place in the late 1800s.
Yeah, we got the impression that it was probably around 1880 or 1890.
So the idea back then is that you had a governess was like a stay-at-home, not only like a teacher, but she also like
a nanny.
Yeah.
But they also had other staff. So she goes. You find out that the previous governess had died. Turns out she kills herself. She was having an affair with...
He was the chauffeur.
Chauffeur makes sense. And the governess, who's played by Deborah Kerr, she keeps thinking that she's seeing different abnormalities and ghosts and hearing things, and the kids are, in her mind, acting very oddly, saying things, acting more mature than their age. You find out that the boy got expelled, but you don't really ever find out why. He is told, they're told that he was a bad influence, I guess, was influencing other students.
Yeah, well, they tell that at the end. But I think it's more important is like the kids are like, what, 8 to 10, maybe?
They're very young.
Yeah, but I think they're supposed to be like comparable in age. They're not twins, but Yeah, the boy was at a boarding school and then he was sent home because based on the letter that was sent to Miss Giddens, the governess, is that he was a bad influencer. He was saying weird things that he wasn't supposed to be saying.
Right.
Like maybe cursing or just, I don't know, just very like
influencing the other students.
It's not clear what he did, but I think that's on purpose. So,
I would, I'm just going to go through some basic notes that I wrote. I really like some of the acting subtleties. Mm-hmm. I feel like that was really good direction, especially with the kids. Like we're going from Frailty, where we have essentially the same age kids.
I think the kids maybe are younger in innocence.
Yes, maybe even younger in innocence. But they were doing things with their looks and their eyes and the time that they took between actions. And it was clear they were told how to do this properly with having talent at the same time. It starts off and it has a very upbeat tone. Mary Poppins wise, like, I'm going to go take care of these kids. They need
go to this nice house in the countryside.
The uncle doesn't give a shit. Like, let's bring in this woman, and it's to the countryside, and it's her first job being a governess. I will say that some of the shots when they pan, I don't know if this was in the version that you were watching, but it seemed like they distorted a little bit on the edges.
Yeah, I think it's the print, because they said the Criterion print is a lot better, because I think the one I was watching, it was on YouTube, so it was very pixelated. And then when I went to go stream it on a different website, it had the same quality issue. So
it was like a warp.
Yeah.
Almost like a fisheye lens look when they panned.
Well, it's very possible the type of lens they were using.
It was, I think I looked it up, and there was some sort of camera used that the director didn't want to use, and so he had to like frame people further apart, I guess.
Yeah.
There's just nice little things like the flowers dying when she kind of touched them, but they don't hold on it. Like they don't pretend that you're stupid.
Dude, totally forgot about it when I rewatched it. There's the scene when she's in the garden early on in the movie when she first sees the figure on top of the tower, and the audio just cuts out entirely. The birds, the insects, all, and then until she drops the flower in the pond, and then it all splashes, comes back. I'm just like, oh man, okay, well that's cool.
When it comes to sound effects, I would argue that that's one of the weaker points, but that's because it's old.
Yes,
and it doesn't know how to like fade stuff in and out, and like the sound effects are very hokey.
Yes, they're very stock. But I just that one scene, the way they do the things like the two shots with the putting the overlay of the shots on top of each other. It's just a couple of those like little bits that are like, oh, that's really nice. That's different.
The girl looks like a young female version of Benedict Cumberbatch. I wrote that down. Great costumes, authentic looking set. Like it looks legit.
Lighting's pretty great.
The lighting is very practical looking. There are times where it's a little questionable.
Yeah.
But for the most part, with the big shots they do, like the long or the medium long shots that they're doing, it's very well lit with very dark areas.
Yeah, it makes the house really creepy.
Yeah, like legit. Great. Like, I wouldn't want to walk into that dark area.
And there's the really cool scenes where like Miss Giddens, Deborah Kerr, she like backs into the darkness, like when she sees something, like she's all lit up and her face is like she's horrified, and then she slowly backs into the darkness that creates this awesome shadow. Like they do, I don't know, they do some really interesting things with the movements of the characters. Like it feels very deliberate. It doesn't feel like, oh, spooky, scary thing, I gotta back away. It feels like, oh, I'm kind of in awe of what I'm seeing.
It's very quick too. Like there are times where I felt like if I looked away, I was gonna miss some sort of subtlety that they were doing with their characters.
I think the script and the text is very limited, so they had to do a lot of things visually and leave it up to the audience to kind of take whatever's being said and kind of analyze it, like see the text and the subtext. So they because the Innocence is based on the story The Turn of the Screw, which was written in the mid 1800s or so, and then there was stage adaptation, then they turned it into this movie. So I don't know where I was going with that.
And
There.
stop. Anyway, I would argue that the pacing is a little bit slow. Probably right around the 30-minute mark.
Sure.
To around an hour or so. It kind of ramps up and then it just goes back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a while to get back up there again.
Yeah.
And it's not I wish I could draw a graph right now, but it feels like you're not supposed to go back to zero.
No, everything, well, especially with this story, it needs to escalate slowly, and then it hits the climax because, like, to the point where she can't, she's seeing all these things, and then it, like, confronts her. Yeah, it feels like she sees things start to build, and then it stops. They kind of go on, things are, whatever, and then it comes back.
Yeah.
It's very odd.
Good writing, good dialogue.
Truman Capote helped write the script.
Oh, there you go.
So that's why the kid sounds... the kid who plays Miles is the same kid from Village of the Damned. So he's very creepy and speaks way too eloquently for a kid.
Yes.
But it's also the 1800s.
Yes. And he's educated.
English, yeah.
I feel like the dialogue is open-ended.
Yeah.
Very open-ended and good. The only other thing I would say before we get to like the ending and what it means is like the idea is that she believes that the kids are being possessed by
the
ghost of the previous governess and
the chauffeur having an affair.
So each kid is possessed by a different person who were into each other. She was in love with him, but he was more...
It was an abusive relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Physically and emotionally, it sounds like. So...
I guess before we go in the end, go watch this movie. It's good.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it. And, it's one of those old movies, so, like, it ends very quickly. There's a lot of things left up to the imagination. But if not for just the visuals alone, I think it's worth it. And if you can find a decent print of it, if you have Criterion, or if you could find a good streaming version of it, or a DVD, if it's still in print, I don't know. I like it a lot. I just think it's one of those cool, spooky movies that it's not in your face all the time. There's some weird shots in this movie, like when she first sees the chauffeur ghost, and then when she sees Miss Jessel, which is the previous governess on the lake. That's creepy as man. She's like among the reeds and this dark figure. It's like
they kept her at a distance anytime.
It's
and
great.
I thought that was really
very,
good.
very creepy because her face almost looks distorted and like gross.
Ring style.
Yeah, So it does remind me of like in the Ring when they look at the videotape for the first time. It's all those compilations of weird imagery.
Yes,
and then it gets to the woman looking at herself in the mirror. I'm like, oh, that looks exactly like her.
It's funny they took a sound clip from The Innocents and it's played during that.
Oh, really?
Tape in the Ring.
I did not know that.
It's like when the boy's singing, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, also, well, okay, audio, but the little theme music that they use from the music box and the girl sings, awesome. Yeah. So creepy. And beautiful. And the opening shot of this movie with the title, because it's an old movie, so the credits are at the beginning of the movie. That title sequence is phenomenal. It just shows her praying hands and she's reciting to herself and protect the children. And it's just really creepy and cool. And it's nice to see an older movie that still kind of holds up in like, it's a ghost story, but is it? And you kind of, okay, well, we can debate that.
Yeah, so that's ultimately what it's supposed to be, challenging the viewer on is, yes, these kids are very obviously creepy. There's something going on. They had some trauma or they're possessed. Whatever you want to believe as the viewer, the governess believes that they are possessed.
Right.
And that's how it all comes to a head. She wants to confront the boy and get him to say the name of the guy.
She's convinced that if the children admit that they're under the control of these previous people, the ghosts, that they'll be free, they'll be unpossessed, essentially. So she wants them to say the name of the person who's in control of them, and it comes out of nowhere. It's
right.
Like,
and
why
you kind
is
of have
that?
to draw your own conclusion
Right,
about
why
why,
does she think
that's
that?
the thing.
Other than the fact that she was the daughter of a priest, or what's that? A preacher, essentially. So
Right.
maybe she has that previous knowledge
My guess was, like, is there something in the Bible
that says
say
thy name.
if the person is possessed by somebody, if they say the name, admit
I
it.
can't remember in The Exorcist if that is something that happens. Like, speak thy name, devil. It sounds familiar.
Like a self-awareness, like
Right.
that means that their conscious has come forward enough to know that they're
Right.
being possessed, and that way they can get rid of the demon.
I think
that's
it's the
inside
whole
of them.
denial, let Satan in, and acknowledgement that there is God
Right.
and that there is a power. Because if there is a devil, then that means there is a God, or there's a light to the dark. So then that cures them of their possession. But so maybe this is where this kind of is relevant. So this is an adaptation of a stage play that was based on The Turn of the Screw, which is a book made, written in the 1800s. And it's a very similar story, but they kind of leave a few things out in the movie. I didn't do a whole bunch of research and read the book, but it's the idea is the person crazy, or are there ghosts? And the movie kind of leaves it up to your interpretation of, is she going crazy, or is she actually seeing ghosts and these kids are actually possessed? And with the ending, it kind of, I guess it kind of confirms that there are ghosts and these kids are possessed. But I'd like to make the argument that they're not. And this is all from her perspective, so it's...
But I can't get past that ending.
I know.
I could
the ending...
make the argument for the rest of the movie.
Yes.
But that ending, to me, makes it just a set thing.
Yeah. Well, when I was rewatching it, I remember, like, everything that the kids do is perfectly explainable.
Yes.
It does that dual thing where it's creepy and weird, but they're also kids. And the maid, who's also in the movie, she's like the voice of reason to Miss Giddens. She's the one that works at the house. She was there before the governess arrives. Everything that she talks about, Miss Giddens kind of transforms in her brain, like, oh, that must be the reason. Well, these people died under mysterious circumstances, and they were really close to the children. Well, that's got to be... She's like connecting the dots in her head, whereas the maid is just like, well, yeah, these things happen, but that doesn't mean the kids are possessed. They're ordinary children. Well, they're maybe a little extraordinary because of these circumstances, but they're not possessed, or there's not ghosts around. Because Miss Giddens is the only one that sees the ghosts. The kids don't.
Right.
And I noticed something earlier that I totally forgot about when I watched this movie, because I watched this movie, like, I think 2012. It was a while ago for a film class. She doesn't recognize the ghosts until she sees a picture or somebody tells her who they are. She just sees figures. And then later in the movie, the ghosts become more clear after the story has been told to her that, oh, this was the previous governess, this was the chauffeur, they had an abusive relationship. As soon as she hears those words, then she starts hearing in her imagination, like, she hears the scene where they're arguing in the hallway. Right. And then when she hears that the couple had sex in front of the kids, or that's alluded to by the maid, then she starts hearing, like, these, like, moans and these things, like, things start happening to her after she experiences something in the real world.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, you're right. Up until the ending, everything is like, well, testing, 1, 2, 3.
Let's get back to it. Technical difficulty there.
Wait, can you say that aloud again?
No, technical
difficulties.
Okay.
Anyway, so we're just going on the end, the ending about the innocent. So, spoilers, but let's just explain it. So, governess sends away the girl because she's convinced that she's got her unpossessed, and so it's just the governess and the kid.
Is that what happened, though? Do you feel that way?
That's what she feels.
Because I feel like she said to the maid, when she sent her away, she said she'll start to feel better.
Yes.
Once you get there.
Mm-hmm.
It made it feel like she was still kind of possessed, and that being far away from the home.
Maybe.
Because that's where everything happens.
Yeah, you might be
classic,
right.
Like,
it's maybe I'm misremembering.
Can inhabit a certain space.
Right. So it's the house. It's the ghosts are only present at the place where they have their unfinished business. So as soon as she's away, that she's okay. So anyway, so she sends the maid and the girl away. And so it's just the governess, Miss Giddens, and the boy Miles. And so she confronts him like, admit to me there's something going on. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, why were you sent home from school? And he eventually shamefully admits that he hears voices and that he said some awful things. And the headmaster
sleeps.
Yes.
And
he's
during the day.
Yeah, he was he was regurgitating that information or saying the same things to the boys. And the headmaster said, you can't do that. And they sent him home, expelled him. So she's convinced that Quint, the chauffeur, is possessing him and making him say these awful things. And he's like, no, I said some bad things and I don't want to admit that I have a problem. Maybe I'm a disturbed kid because the kid found the dead chauffeur. So maybe he has some bad PTSD or something. And so he's yelling at her, like calling her like these words that she thinks that only Quint would say, like hussy and like you're a hag, a few different things. So she sees Quint in the window, the image of him, and they're like parallel laughing. And she's convinced that he's possessed. But the kid, all of the dialogue that he says, it's pretty explainable. Like he doesn't want to be confronted by her. And then he runs away. She confronts him in the garden where he was earlier in the movie. And she's like, no, just admit to me. Say his name. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then she sees his apparition in the garden and she's working him up. And the kid eventually says, Quint, and asking where he's at because he can't see him.
Where are you, demon?
Where are you? Yeah. And then all of a sudden the kid freezes. There's a close-up on his face. There's this light that comes across him. And then he falls over, essentially dead. And
he is dead.
Picks him up. Well, you think he fainted. She picks him up and she looks at him. His eyes are open.
Yeah.
And so she's crying. She's screaming. And essentially he is dead. So the argument that she's going insane doesn't really work if he just dies all of a sudden because she doesn't hit him. She doesn't
and it would
murder
make sense that they couldn't see the people that are possessing them.
Yeah.
Because they're possessed.
Sure.
They're inside them.
Right. And she's the only one that could see them.
Right.
Sure. But if we can make this argument that if it's only from her perspective that she did something to Miles because they're alone together and the only times that she sees things is either when she's alone or when she's with the kids. So she never sees anything when she's with the maid, which is, you could assume that whenever she's with the maid that we're in the real world. And then when she's by herself, she's imagining things. Because there's these weird dream sequences.
She does see something when the maid is there. The maid does not see it. It's like the second time it's when the girl took the boat and she sees the woman. And
the maid comes in. She sees it first and the maid comes in and then she's gone.
Yeah, it's like,
so,
go on.
You can make the argument that, yeah, maybe, but I think it still holds true, because the real world and her imagination clash, obviously. So maybe that's one of those moments where it comes really close. But I want to make the argument that the movie is ambiguous enough to the point where is she insane or is it really ghost? But the reason, you got to explain the reason why is she insane? Why does she become insane all of a sudden when she goes to the house?
And I don't feel like
they don't do enough of that. Maybe they do more in the novel because then I think some of the essays that were written about Turn of the Screws that she was sexually repressed and confronting or being employed by the uncle who she says some weird things in the movie. She refers to the uncle like that he's very dashing, and then when she first sees Quint, the evil ghost, the maid asks her, was he handsome? And she's like, oh, yes, he was incredibly handsome. And he had these eyes, these powerful eyes. Like, not kind of explaining that she's afraid of him, but maybe almost like she's afraid that she's attracted to him.
Right.
So they do these weird things with that. And maybe they don't develop it nearly as much in the movie as in the book.
Just a little bit more for people to grab on
to make, why does she become insane all of a sudden?
Yeah.
This is her first job, but they don't give her enough backstory as
and
why.
The kid dying at the end just...
Yeah, why would he die in a normal circumstance if she's going insane? He has a heart attack?
Yeah, I mean, you could have thrown something in there really small, like he's got some sort of health condition.
Right, and if he gets overexcited, that
so throw it in the beginning. Like,
sure.
Oh,
Because they say, well, don't bring up Miss Jessel, the old governess with the girl, or she'll start having like a fit. Well, just say, well, he's an overactive child and he has a problem.
Which to me, yes, it plays both ways very well, though. Like the whole don't bring up the old governess to her.
Yes.
Because, one, if she's not possessed, she did I couldn't remember. Did she actually find the body? Do they say that?
No,
okay.
she was just very close with
okay.
The
so she's very close with her, and she's very upset that she died.
Well,
and
she
so
lays the flowers on her grave when they go to church.
Right.
So she has this attachment, but she doesn't want to, acknowledge it. And then it isn't until Miss Giddens confronts her and says, "Is Miss Jessel on the pond?" Then she starts freaking out.
And then she's like screaming at night, which is the real world.
Yes.
So, because the maid is there.
Right. So it's either she's possessed or she just...
Nobody's like that in real life. That's kind of the problem.
Well, maybe with death. Maybe back then.
I don't know.
It is, it's not concrete.
Yeah.
It's a neat idea, but it's just the ending doesn't keep it. Because the rest of the movie, everything is explainable in the real world and in the idea that there are ghosts and they are possessed.
Yeah.
They do a really good job with that. But yeah, the ending leaves it to...
And I don't want to sit here and say that the ending is bad.
No.
Because it's not. It's actually pretty well done.
Yeah.
It just doesn't go with the theme of
the duality.
Is
it just
ambiguous.
Yeah.
It pretty much gives you an answer, in my opinion.
That it is ghosts.
That it is a
and
ghost
she's not
that's
insane, which makes it less interesting, I think.
I agree.
I think it's more interesting if they go with the other route that she is insane. She kills the kid by accident. I think if they're going to pick a side, pick that one or leave it ambiguous. I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, good movie. I don't know. I still think it holds up fairly
I
well.
enjoyed it a lot. Like I said, my only real complaint, and I'm not even complaining about the end or what it ends up being, is...
Just doesn't keep the themes
consistent. And it's a little bit slow at times, and I wish there was just a little bit more backstory to...
Sure.
The people that died, to the kids a little bit, to the uncle even. Like I kind of want to know
he's in
more
one scene.
about
He's
him.
in the opening, and then
But he's an interesting character.
He is, yeah.
Um,
Michael Redgrave, I think, is the actor.
I did not find him very dashing personally, but the standards were different.
Yeah, standards were different back then.
But and you especially want more backstory to Deborah Kerr's character.
Yeah, Miss Giddens, the government.
Yeah, because like you said, if she is sexually repressed, it makes for a good case.
Right, and that makes you... Because back then, that was also one of the... what they considered somebody going insane or hysteric was that they believed that women at the time, if they were sexually repressed, then that would manifest in other ways, in hallucinations or... And if they're going for that, then they need to explain it.
Yeah, just... Beyond those,
because her showing up at the house and then suddenly becoming insane doesn't work.
It doesn't make any sense. Just because she's hearing a couple stories that she actually starts seeing
the only thing that
and stuff like that
makes sense is in the opening is he asks her, "Do you have an active imagination?" She says, "Oh yes, I do." But that one line doesn't carry the whole movie.
Sure,
you can't go from one line to saying that she's insane.
Or you need to explain maybe why the apparitions would be showing themselves to her, but nobody else in the house besides
other than she's the daughter of a preacher, and they don't explain why she didn't have any other jobs
she's
before
more
this.
accessible as a governess that works with kids.
Okay,
that they want to reveal, they want her help down.
Yeah, so like it's the apparitions are manifesting because the kids are trying to reach to her like, hey, something's wrong. But I think we're digging at straws here.
I know, but it reminded me of when he comes up to the window. Does that remind you of that really terrible effect that they did in Frailty with the kid?
Oh, wait, what?
Where they had his head like floating.
Oh yeah, where they green screened it and it was just his neck and his head.
It's like they took it and put it on a popsicle pop.
Yeah. And that scene or that little, like, it's not even a frame, like it's a maybe 10 seconds long. Why is that in the movie?
It's dumb.
Bad. It looks terrible.
This is how we give the kid emotion, make his
head
spinning in
it's basically like the opening of Eraserhead when what's his face, Jack, I can't remember the actor's name, his head is just floating in the space. It literally is that, but it's just black in the kid's neck from his head, from his neck up. And and the kid's emotion is not there. He's just like staring.
Yeah, it's like
blankly.
the same thing.
Yeah, it's terrible.
All right. Speaking of
Anyway, terrible
emotions
movies
and eyes and ending their movies
Oh,
with
no.
eyeballs. Our third film that I made Harry watch.
Yeah, why did you do this to me?
Because I love it so much.
It
I was
hurt
so
me.
excited
It
for
hurt
you
me.
to watch this. Was The Invisible Man 2020. There's a lot
To unpack here.
a lot wrong with this movie.
Let's go through the positives real quick.
Go
just
ahead.
like we did at Frailty. So this is Lee Winnell, the writer of Saw. This is his third movie that he's directed. He directed Insidious Chapter 3. Upgrade, which I think is a nice hidden gem. If you haven't seen Upgrade, go see that. That's fun. It's a fun little sci-fi action horror movie. And then he directed this movie and wrote it, actually. And so The Invisible Man, kind of a little backstory. This was supposed to be part of the dark universe that Dracula Untold and The Mummy with Tom Cruise set up. Warner Brothers has a bunch of expiring licenses on the monster movie franchise because I think Dracula and Frankenstein came out in 29, 30, something early 1900s. And so they're trying to revamp these movies.
Oh, they had a Wolfman movie in
Yes.
2010, so I think that one was
So
fine.
technically, yeah, but it wasn't part of the
It was
cinematic
not,
universe.
but I think
they were
it
trying
was
to
it's their
their
property.
attempt to keep the property going. The same way that Disney is remaking all of these, Aladdin,
Right,
Lion
the,
Kings to keep the
live
rights. So The Invisible Man was supposed to be Johnny Depp playing him, and it was supposed to be a spin-off from The Mummy, but The Mummy did so terribly and was such a garbage movie that they kind of abandoned that whole idea. And of course, Johnny Depp getting all that flack, or all that, not flack, but all the attention in the media because of the controversy, because of the Amber Heard stuff. They kind of wanted to ditch him. So I don't know how Lee Winnell was approached after Upgrade, but
The question is, when
Yeah.
was he approached? Because the Johnny Depp stuff is not that old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure The Mummy came out in 2017 or 2018.
Maybe it was 2016.
Has it been that long since
It
that
probably
movie came
was.
out? Anyway, what it screams to me is that he had to write this quickly.
Yes.
That's what it seems like to me. Because when I looked it up, even after Johnny Depp and when they decided to go a different route, they still wanted to get a big name actor for the leading role of The Invisible Man, which if you watch the version that's out, why would they get anybody to play that role?
Right, because he's not
Because
even,
he's barely in
the
it.
movie, right?
And they actually had Armie Hammer and Alexander Skarsgård.
Oh, really?
At one point, like that, they wanted to be in that role.
Well, because I'd never watched the original Invisible Man
Yeah,
from whatever the 40s, and it was more of like a mystery, like not like a thriller, right? Like he was almost like a superhero, like you were kind of rooting for
I
him.
think that was the idea, and that's why they had bigger names
playing
slated
him.
for the
And then
roles.
because they couldn't nail anybody and they couldn't get this out
Mhm.
quick enough, they're like, we'll turn it into a thriller. We'll have him barely in the movie. We'll make him the villain.
Oh, man.
Okay, so pros, real quick.
Woo.
The opening 20 to 30 minutes of the movie, pretty good.
Not bad.
The opening sequence when she's running away, Elizabeth Moss is the lead character, Cecilia. I can't remember what her last name is. She's forgettable.
It's Latin for blind.
Oh,
Or
is
part
it?
of it is.
Oh,
like,
this movie has so many layers. The opening sequence where she's escaping this, the Invisible Man character. He's this obsessive guy. It's really cool because
he's controlling.
Right,
Make sure
controlling.
you know
Sorry.
that.
very controlling.
Because they really play it up throughout the movie in many different creative
anyway.
ways. This is sarcasm. They don't do anything like that.
No, I'm sorry. That's hard to come.
They
you gotta
just
explain that.
say he's controlling. And
Anyway,
that covers it.
So the opening is great because they use silence and
Yep.
and really well, and there's not like a lot of like audio cues. There's no jump scares really, and after that, it's all out the window,
Mhm.
pretty much.
They break this into 3 acts.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Moss, for the most part,
I like her.
she's okay. She does a
It's
good
not
job
her
in the
fault.
beginning, but no, it's not her fault. But the end, it feels like she kind of gave up because I don't blame her. Like the rest of the movie is pretty terrible. So.
There are many many problems with this.
Okay, so
continuity being probably one of the top for me.
So should we just explain quick rundown what
Sure.
happens? So Elizabeth Moss, she's running away from this guy who is a scientist, or they never explain what he does.
He is a leading
architect,
engineer in optics.
Okay, whatever.
Or some crap like that.
She leaves him because he's incredibly controlling. He basically, it's like an abusive relationship. He can't let her leave the house or speak for herself, think for herself. She can't do anything.
Nothing.
So she
Somehow
leaves.
she gets off the property, though.
Right.
If he's that controlling.
Yet, he's so controlling, yet he doesn't train his dog to be an attack dog, to go after her, or anything that somebody would do. Anyway, so she figures out a way. She turns off all the cameras. She leaves him. And then apparently he kills himself because he can't be without her.
Slit his wrist.
His brother is a lawyer and the executor of his estate. And in his will, he left Cecilia. How much did he leave her?
$5 million.
$5 million. In installments. And she can receive it as long as she doesn't commit a crime. So it's the Slayer cause in most wills, as long as you don't get
Which obviously
arrested.
is foreshadowing.
Right. So she gets the money. She's like, oh, it's all over. He's gone. I don't have to worry about him. Then all of a sudden, things start happening in the house. She starts seeing things.
Yeah.
And it's called The Invisible Man. So I'm not spoiling a whole bunch. I won't spoil the ending. We'll go into it eventually.
He's torturing her.
If you want a good bad movie, sure, watch it. But it's pretty insulting at times. So maybe it's up to you if you want to watch it.
If you like complete films that are written out correctly and follow a specific plot, and the editing is good,
even follow the rules that the movie sets up,
its own physics that are unbelievable to begin with, and it wouldn't have taken much.
No,
it really wouldn't have. How did he always know where she was?
Yeah.
Okay, they established that right from the beginning when he follows her after she leaves the compound.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
She gets into the car of her sister,
and he's
who's
right
waiting for her, and he is right behind her. She got through the woods, got all the way to the street, and he knew exactly where she was. And that's okay.
If you
explain how he knows that.
She's got a microchip that he installed or something.
Because
he's so controlling.
Yes. Because every other time in the movie where he always seems to know where she is, it would explain that.
Mm-hmm.
And all you have to do is have one moment, say when she sees the second suit in the house, where maybe there's like a monitor that has little tracking dots on it. Like, I don't need a whole lot. So why does the suit give him extra strength?
Yeah, it's never explained because he might be like a built dude, but like the stuff that he does in the movie where he's like throwing people across the room and like breaks their necks and does all this, it's crazy.
Which I'm tired of seeing in film because it's been like proven how much strength
it is to
break somebody's neck.
And unless you're like trained in a specific form of martial arts, you can't do it.
Unbelievable.
Okay. All right. Well,
problems galore.
What notes did I write down? Because I watched this movie after. Oh, so there's a cool scene in the beginning where she's cooking dinner or breakfast or something. She leaves the room. And immediately the knife off the kitchen or the counter disappears. And you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then like slowly the heat on the stove starts ramping up, and then it catches fire. So then when they come back in the room, they have to extinguish the fire. And you're like, oh, so that's kind of cool, a little subtlety. But where did the knife go?
Where did he go?
Yeah.
It's a far enough away shot. You can see the entire kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have seen that knife, which you see later.
Yeah, where did he hide it? Behind himself? He's completely translucent.
That's not how that works.
Right.
No, it's a mirror. It mirrors whatever it's pointing towards.
Yes.
So you would see the knife floating no matter where he was carrying it.
Yeah, it just disappears underneath the counter.
Oh, he put it in his suit.
Right.
Oh, we didn't see anything where you could put shit in his suit.
Okay, this movie could be simple as the things that he touched are also invisible. Just establish that.
Well, they should have made it not just a suit.
Yeah.
It should have been something more than that.
Because I think in the original movie, in the 30s, like, he drinks a potion by accident and he turns invisible.
It's a power.
Yeah, it's a power. It's
and
not...
I think that's what I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So, before you watched it, my thoughts were, it's terrible. It's a waste.
Yeah.
It could have been way better. It felt like it didn't know what it was doing after a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, oh, well, we gotta, either the studio came in or they just didn't have the screenplay written out.
I think it's blatant by the last 20 minutes of the movie that the studio just interfered.
It feels like it.
Well, and it's a shame because this movie could have been like what Joker did for the DC stuff. Is like, we have a small sleeper, not it's not comparable because Joaquin Phoenix is such a good actor, but I'm just saying it's like you have this movie that you don't think could do very well and could be made for a little bit amount of money, but could turn a huge profit and then reinvest interest in this whole dark universe thing. Like, oh, maybe we could do more movies that are like standalone horror movies with these creatures or these characters. But then they just completely blow it.
Yeah.
Like,
big time.
It's,
because it ends up just being, it's laughable.
Yeah.
It's comedy at a certain point.
Yeah.
And, if you guys don't want to listen to spoilers coming up with we've been spoiling movies the whole time, but we know this is a newer movie, and if you want to watch it and see the end, you absolutely can. I would stop listening right now. But otherwise, we're going to go into how fucking god-awful this ending is. That makes zero sense.
So at a certain point, she gets arrested and put in a mental institution because she's at a restaurant, and the knife that he stole... he slits the Elizabeth Moss's sister, her throat in the restaurant, and then just puts it in her hand, and then everybody around her is like, oh, she committed the murder.
Why does it matter it's that knife?
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
If he's going to do that, why does it matter that it was the kitchen knife?
Right.
Why is it a big deal?
Why can't it just be a random knife?
It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't
Could
matter.
have gotten it from the kitchen in the restaurant.
Right, exactly. So, or the table knife. The knife that's at the table.
So it's not a floating knife carried.
Yeah, how did the knife get there?
Listen.
Yeah. How did nobody in the
that,
restaurant
Harry.
see that?
It's about a floating fucking knife that just nobody in the restaurant saw.
No.
That was just sitting right there.
Right.
So there's these camera shots throughout the fucking movie that are clearly for a movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reasonable explanation for it other than, hey, we want you to see this floating knife.
Yeah.
Why would he wait?
Cool.
Why wouldn't he just do it?
Right.
Oh, it's because the camera needed to see it.
Right. Why in this scene where there's a fight between Elizabeth Moss and the Invisible Man in this choreographed fight, why does he wait for her to hit the plate on his head?
Yeah.
So we have the cool shot of the plate breaking in the air.
Yeah, there was some problems with that.
Anyway, so she gets to the hospital. She's committed because what else would she have done? She killed her sister. There's no other logical reason that she didn't do it, even though she says there's an invisible man following her. It's obviously crazy talk.
I mean, you could make the argument that she gets committed. Like, why she should be committed.
Right.
Because she also has friends that would be like, yeah, she's been crazy.
She's been crazy the whole time. There's no... I mean, she obviously could have done this.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the lawyer brother comes in. He says, your funds are null because you committed a crime or you're under suspicion. You're arrested. And he's like...
Best actor beyond Elizabeth Moss, by the way, in this movie.
So he's
not bad.
He's an Australian actor. He was in Daybreakers with Ethan Hawke. He's the younger brother. He's fine. I can't remember what other shows and movies he's been. He's been in some stuff recently. But yeah, he's the best actor besides Elizabeth Moss.
Right.
And so his whole thing is she finds out that she's pregnant with the Invisible Man's baby, the controlling guy. I can't remember what his name is. Adrian.
Yeah.
Awesome
With
name.
an E.
Yeah. He's rich, so his name's Adrian. Anyway, so she finds out from when she's admitted, the doctors...
for some shit.
Right.
Like controlling.
So she finds out she's pregnant, and so the brother, he comes there and he's like telling her all this information that, she's screwed, and then he's like, but there is one way.
Hey, Harry,
we can make this all go away.
We can get you out of here.
We can get you off.
Take it all back.
Murder, as in you're pretty much you're booked, you're fucked. There really is no other
I control
evidence.
the law.
I'm a lawyer and I have money, so you keep the baby, and this will all go away.
You didn't think he'd actually let you get away, do you?
Oh my god, it's so terrible. It's awful. And anyway, so
I was still believing that there was a chance it was just him at this point.
right. So the smart way to do this movie is that the controlling guy actually died. He killed himself because he's insane, and the brother decided found the suit and said, you know what, I can't let this slide. I need to finish what my brother started or whatever bull crap.
Yeah.
And that would have been kind of a cool twist. Like, it makes sense. It's not super, it's whatever. It's not amazing, but it makes sense for what the movie set up. And so she finds a way to get out. She hides a pen and she stabs him, which malfunctions the suit some way. They don't explain why it does it. Just part of it. So it starts flickering in and out. And then we get to the amazing hallway scene where she's trying to flee and the police are trying to take her back into the cell. And fun fact, how many cops did it take, or did the Invisible Man go through?
Oh, am I guessing?
Yes, you want to guess. But this might be one of my trivia questions. Outside? Between the entire sequence when she's leaving the hospital.
So you're including outside in the rain?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. If I can just guess, I would say 8.
Oh, very close. 9.
Yeah.
He incapacitates 9 police officers. Yeah. Okay, so you could argue maybe they're like security guards, but
they weren't.
Obviously, at a certain point, at first they couldn't see him, and then
murder.
Yes. Okay, so that they are police officers. They have guns drawn. And after they see, like, at a certain point, there's enough guards in the hallway that are down and Elizabeth Moss is further enough away from them that she couldn't have done it. So they're like, where is he at?
But they, like, keep staring at her.
Yeah.
Like, she is doing something.
But these cops,
and then they'd be like, stay there. Stay there.
The Invisible Man goes after them one at a time. So the reaction times for the cops to take care of him, even though, okay, they can't see him technically, but what? They just wait and let him do it.
and the suit only malfunctions when the movie needs it to malfunction, by the way. So, like, the problem is that I feel like people will watch this hallway scene and be like, that was cool. Damn, that was badass. And I can't do that.
No. It's hilarious.
You watch it and you go, this makes no logical sense.
No.
Not a fucking piece of it. And this is just where the movie just goes, jumps the shark.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's dumb. But, okay, so she leaves the hospital. He chases after her. She chases because he's like, you know what? Nobody's going to believe you. They're going to... he doesn't kill all the cops, by the way. He only kills a few of them. He knocks out the rest of them. So nobody's going to believe that an Invisible Man did this. They're all going to believe Elizabeth Moss, who's like, what, 150-pound woman who has no previous history.
Killed 9 cops.
Took out 9 police officers.
So kill them.
Right.
Let's pause this for a second.
Yeah.
Why did it seem like he was deliberately letting some of them live and then killing others?
Yeah, that made no sense.
Like the one he badass shot from behind.
Because the gun, you could see the gun float.
It's so stupid.
You see the gun float by itself. It's floating by itself, guys. He's invisible, guys. He's the Invisible Man.
But those effects are bad.
Yeah.
It showcases the special effects being poor in that.
Well, early on in the movie, they're not terrible.
They're fine.
Yeah.
They're fine. But when they get to that hallway and it's like malfunctioning, it looks green screen.
Also, the camera work is terrible because what they do is they do something similar what they did in Upgrade, where the camera is on this fixed rig that follows the face of the person. And in Upgrade, it makes sense because it's a paraplegic being controlled by an AI system, so you're following the movements of the character. And it looks great. They spent time and money on it. In this movie, it's in there for no reason, only for a cool couple shots. Cool. And it looks awful because it doesn't make sense for the movie. And it's rushed.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, so it turns out that the guy in the suit was the brother all along. She confronts him.
See, now, I don't believe that.
You don't believe that?
I don't think it was the brother until it was in his house. In her house. In her friend's house.
Oh, okay. So you think he found... Well, no, that doesn't make any sense because she hid the second suit.
Well,
do you think they shared the suit?
Yeah, I think they shared it. I mean, okay. We're about to get into the just absolutely moronic portion of the movie where the brother shows up in the suit, follows her back to her friend's house.
Well, he goes there first because he threatens, like, I can't kill you, but I can kill everybody you love.
Sorry. And
so she follows him.
The friend's daughter.
Yeah, the cop and the daughter.
Right. And there's no explanation why he's the friend. There's no backstory there.
No, he's her friend, and
just give me a reason. I just
they went to college together, maybe.
Something. Yeah, but like it's just they're really
at first
close
I thought
friends
it
and
was
just
the
give me
sister's
something.
husband.
Yeah,
and that was their daughter, but
they don't ever talk about who the
true.
mom is.
Mm-mm.
So he goes to the house, keeps the daughter hostage, a friend's daughter hostage. And
he doesn't actually. He grabs her. He's going to hurt her. He gets sprayed by the pepper spray and somehow beats her in front of her out of her room and stops her.
Right.
Even though the footage shows that he falls over. And why would the suit be susceptible to pepper spray?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got paint completely over yourself.
Oh yeah, we forgot to mention that earlier scene. She reveals that he's there by throwing paint on him,
which is not bad. It's that he cleaned it up within 30 seconds.
Right.
At the kitchen sink,
completely spotless. She's invisible again.
I mean, you couldn't even hear the faucet until she was already walking around like the living room or something.
All you need to do, like we said before, is just come up with a reason why establish the reason that the suit just the fluid falls off of it.
This is not why people watch movies, Harry.
No, they're there to have a good time.
They're just there to be entertained. I can be entertained and you still have
this stuff takes
a logical, like stay within your physics, the rules of your world. And in this world is our world.
Yes, it's the real world except for
the suit.
The suit.
Which you have to explain what the capabilities and limits of it are. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we have no fucking clue what is happening.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's...
she stabbed him with a fucking pin. That malfunctions the entire suit. It looks like every one of those things is individual.
Yeah, or like it's a little projector. Yeah.
Why would a stab make 1/4 of the suit not work? Periodically.
That sounds like a faulty design. It sounds like he's not so much of a genius after all.
Well, he's certainly not. So she ends up shooting him.
Yes.
The brother.
Trivia question. How many times does she shoot him?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know?
Is that part of the trivia questions?
Are we waiting to do that?
That was the idea.
Okay. All right. Well,
we've already answered some of mine too, so don't feel bad. So she kills the brother, finds his brother in the suit, and then you still could have ended it.
Just end the movie there.
Just end the movie.
This movie is way too long. It's 2 hours.
Yeah. And at this point, it's past an hour and a half.
Yeah, there's 20 minutes of the movie left. Literally, this movie could have been 90 minutes or less.
Yeah. And if you had known that this is where your movie was going to end, you could have made that other stuff right before it better.
Yes. And I think that movie was supposed to end that way. But then the studio is like, no. It's the brother the whole time.
That's why it's so stupid when it feels like it changes when she gets committed.
Yes, because it makes no sense.
Because that's when they decided it needed to change.
Yes.
And so then you find out that the brother, quote unquote, had been locked up.
So the brother locked up Adrian in the basement of his house. And so it was the brother the whole time. At least that's what the story is. And so... oh my God. Elizabeth Moss.
Talk about
it is. It's so dumb. So she's like, you know what? I'll never be free as long as he lives. So she calls him and goes back to the house. And also, how is he back at his house after being imprisoned? Why is he not in jail? Why is he not being questioned? Why did they find a suit in his basement? And like, why do you have an invisible suit? It's top secret. No. They don't explain any of it. Is he working for the government?
Oh,
why does
about Adrian?
Yes, when the police find him.
There would have been a suit there.
Yeah, but there's still the container where the suit's supposed to be.
Sure.
And the suit supposedly was his creation. So why would the police not ask him all that? Like,
yeah, but he could argue that it was all his brother. Everything
was his brother.
Yeah. Because she doesn't have any proof otherwise.
I guess. I don't know. It's just it's lazy.
Right.
It's very like...
I mean, he's like, blockaded inside of a
there's like drywall.
Basement drywall wall. It's so dramatic and over the top.
You gotta have a SWAT team come into there.
Like, do they think audience members are like, holy shit, he didn't do it? It was the brother? He was closed inside of this like, I don't know,
my mind being blown.
Like, holy shit, that's so cool. And I'm sitting there going, that makes no fucking sense. And I don't know what to do about my feelings right now.
No, at a certain point, at that 20-minute mark, I felt like the studio execs were laughing at me. Yeah. I felt like I was like
we
a
need
big
a
metal
twist.
finger.
We need a twist. Your twist was it was the brother.
Yes, that was the twist.
That was upset that his other brother killed himself
because of
over this woman.
Yeah,
it makes sense from a human aspect. Why somebody would do that. That revenge makes sense.
Sure,
to me.
And you don't have to explain it. You don't have to explain that he's unstable or anything. No. You could just have it like that. His brother who created the suit was like a controlling weirdo, and he killed himself over a girl, so it's natural to think that the brother would be equally that way.
And it gives, to me, it gives Cecilia like a really good thing to have to deal with. Finding out that it's the brother and that the guy that she left did actually kill himself.
Yeah, over her.
Yeah. And so then she has these moments after that if this is the way it should have been, she would have these moments where she is conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, he was a controlling son of a bitch, but he killed himself over me. I thought he didn't care about me at all.
It would be interesting to play with the whole idea, well, she's still pregnant with his kid. Should she keep the kid because of him?
It's just,
yeah.
They just erase all that. The guy's still alive. The brother got controlled into doing all of this. Oh, we're not going to explain why this guy is controlling, why he's controlling, how he's controlling. Here's what we do instead. Well, what did he do to you? Do you want to talk about the things that he did? Did he hit you?
Among other things.
Among other things.
That is the line, among other things.
What other things?
Specify what it is.
This is rated R.
Yeah.
I need to know what the fuck was happening in that house.
At a certain point, he knew my thoughts, Andrew.
Yeah.
He knew my thoughts.
Come on.
What does that mean?
Jesus. It's bad writing.
Yeah,
it's bad writing.
It's really bad.
And it's not difficult to fill that hole. Like, don't treat us like babies.
No,
this is a rated R film. We know what we're getting into. It's horror. It's fucking Elizabeth Moss from Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
That shit is way worse than anything that happens in The Invisible Man. Stop pretending.
Yeah.
Say he rapes her. Say that he, feeds her dog food. Who the fuck cares?
Right. Just
give
something that makes it her emotions believable, or like at least a reason why she's so affected by him.
Yes.
Oh, he wouldn't let me leave the house, and he picked up what I ate and what I wore, and he knew my thoughts. Okay, but that doesn't really explain why the brother would be after you, and why
would the brother do anything?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's controlling Harry.
They're evil. They're evil, quotation marks. They're bad people.
Both of them.
Bad guys. We need a bad guy and a good
But
person.
He was blatantly controlled by his brother.
Right.
So is he really a bad person?
Who fucking cares?
You know, but if you established why he was controlling and in what ways, it would make it more believable that the brother would do it.
Sure.
Why would he ever take the fall for that shit?
Yeah.
Oh, and he knew that his brother was gonna die. Like, what was the plan?
Right. How do you fake your death in
That's
2020?
How do you fake your death? Oh, we're not going to explain it.
Whose ashes are in the urn that he says that his
matter.
brother's in?
No, what you don't understand, Harry, is that we explained it away by saying, here's a picture.
Oh yeah, it's a picture of him with blood on his wrist.
His wrists are split. She found out through her sister, who found out on the news.
It was a news article.
This was not the brother just telling everybody that he was dead.
It would have been okay if the brother called her and said, I hate to inform you, but I'm a lawyer. I'm the executor of his estate. He's dead. Okay, that's fine. If it's like all within that little small like setup, like, but it's on the news. Yeah, like how do you
Where's
make
the
your death?
autopsy?
Yeah.
Oh, he's got money, Harry. He's rich.
Money solves it all.
Yeah.
Anyway, the ending's dumb. She goes back to his house. He admits that he did some bad things, but she's wearing a wire because her friend's a cop, and they're trying to get him to admit that he did it from the start, and he won't say it because he's too smart. And so she goes back into her old room. She finds the second suit that she hid in the beginning of the movie, or close to the beginning. She wears it. She slits his throat invisible. So, and he doesn't even like fight back. Like he doesn't
No, the
even
suit gives you super strength.
Right. And so she puts the knife in his hand, and then she goes back, undresses herself really quickly, comes back in the room, and is like, "Oh my God, he killed himself!"
It happens so
fast.
It's like 30 seconds.
I'm sorry.
That suit looks really hard to get
Yes,
off.
it's skin tight. How do you put that on? She's wearing like
So does it adjust to who's
Right,
wearing
is it
it?
a
Because
robot?
that suit is way bigger than Elizabeth Moss.
Yes.
So you gotta
Also, she comes back in, her hair is like perfect, her makeup's perfect. I'm like, if you were in a skin tight suit, you wouldn't look
I
like
just
that.
realized that I did not fully pay attention to the end. I didn't take it for what it was when she takes the suit and puts it in the bag. I thought it was like a... I thought it was like a... well, the cop sees it and is like, look at what you did.
She's the invisible woman.
She's the invisible woman. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Universal Studios, you're dumb.
That is stupid. Give her a better character. Give her a better arc. She steps out and stares into
She's no
the
longer
future.
abused. She is a strong, empowered woman now. She can take care of her. She has control of her own life now.
Who stares? Who comes out of a building, steps up, and literally just stares forward? I mean, I'm doing it right now. You can't see it, but this is what it would be. With some emotion on her face.
Well,
How about
Andrew, there's
a little bit like just like some sighing, a little bit of a look around. No. Dead straight, like right at the camera.
or have her cry, maybe.
This does not look like somebody that is looking forward to the future. This is I gotta do this for the camera to make it look like I'm liberated. That's what it looks like.
And cut.
Yep.
We got the
Oh
movie.
my God, it's brilliant. You are set, Elizabeth Moss. You are the best, and it's not her fault.
No.
She is a capable actress, and she was told to do that.
Yeah.
Which
We here at Universal Studios, we like to make a statement with our decade or almost century-old property. This is now for the new generation. Women are strong and capable, and they don't need a man.
and
to
men
tell
are
them how
bad
to live
because
their
they're
life.
controlling.
Yes.
We are.
Men are evil. Money's bad.
We
all
are
good.
sometimes, but you kind of need to know why.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even have to go into why he's or like how he's controlling. Just give me more backstory.
Yeah.
Why is he the way he is?
Yeah. Just anything.
Oh, he was like that to me too when we were growing up, says the brother.
Why is he that way?
Oh,
Did his dad do something to him? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I have to look for reasons in my character motivations in movies.
Listeners, demand better writing for your movies that you watch, because this thing has far too many good reviews.
I think that's the scariest thing, right? Because when we were looking at this, like when we saw the trailers, it looked bad, and we're just like, I'll never watch that. And then the reviews came out, and we're like, guys, it's actually pretty good.
No,
it's not. It's bad. It's very
good.
bad.
It is basic, pretty much on every level past the 30-minute mark.
Yeah, it's another. It's a red box movie essentially. It's just another movie they put out, and if the theaters were open, it probably would have made a decent amount of money. And
there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah.
I mean, we could talk about this movie. I would argue for at least another hour.
Probably, yeah.
But we're not going to. I'm sure we will bring it up in the future, in future episodes about the things that we hated. But we're going to jump into some quiz questions. I'm going to start off with the Invisible Man.
Oh, okay.
You ready?
Yeah, sure.
How much and how long could you rent the Invisible Man for when it released?
Okay, so to rent the movie, you get 30 days to watch it, but once you start it, you only have 48 hours to watch it.
48 hours.
48 hours. The rental price was $14.99.
It was $19.99.
$19.99.
$20 to rent the movie for 2 days.
That's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
You don't pay $20 to go to the theater.
I don't pay $20 for a DVD anymore. I don't. It's ridiculous.
Dude, it's
Streaming. I should own
I don't
it
have
then.
a 4K TV.
Yeah.
I can't play 4K.
No. Okay.
How does the beginning of the film correlate with the end? The shots.
Oh, the shots.
Yeah. Because it's deep. Oh man, there's a quote from Lee.
Why? Because the waves open up the movie, and they wash over onto the title sequence.
Okay, so I mean beyond the title sequence, the first shot after the title sequence,
when she wakes up.
Yeah. So what's
the time
correlation? No, it's her eyes. So it's like the idea is that you see her eyes when she's waking up, and then the last shot of the movie is her eyes again.
Lee, maybe stick to writing movies and maybe just go with movies that are better than this.
This is what I mean by bad writing.
Well, okay, I don't honestly think it's really his fault. Saw's not a masterpiece, but it's okay. Upgrade's pretty good. It's got issues. I never really got into the Insidious movies. I liked the first one. It's still not great, but it's okay. And he wrote that, and James Wan directed that, so...
It is his fault.
Why?
The film starts with a close-up of Cecilia's face as she opens her eyes, which is important when Wannell adds that it will pay off much later. So he had this in mind, saying,
Listen,
oh my God, it's so deep that I showed her eyes waking up in the morning on her escape, and the eyes at the end is her finally breaking free. So it's deep. It's good writing.
Yeah, well...
Do you know how easy that is? Do you know what a cop-out that is?
Right.
Okay. Go ahead. Hit me.
Oh, you want me to?
Just with a couple. Well, anything about the Invisible Man.
Oh, the Invisible Man. Okay. How many times did she shoot him, the brother, at the end of the movie?
Oh. Well, it's a pistol, right?
Yeah.
She probably shot him. I'm going to go with 8.
Oh, wow. No, 4 times.
Oh, she only shot him 4.
In the chest, but he still staggered about 6 feet, and then he died.
Sure.
Okay, we already did the how many cops he took out. How many times does Elizabeth Moss cry in the movie?
So he's been tallying up how many times Elizabeth Moss cries. And what are we establishing as crying?
Actual tears. More than just sobbing, with her hands in her face.
Wet on her cheeks, right?
Yes.
14.
Man, you're shooting way too high.
Am I?
You give this movie too much credit.
Well, I know that
counted
you
at
got
least.
about halfway, and it was like 6 or something like that.
I
So.
think it was 5. I think is what I
5
counted.
total.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I didn't count like her like.
Yeah, like the wedding of the eyes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't remember. So
Yeah, but she just looked tired throughout the entire movie. I felt bad for
I'm
her. Like,
I do this and Handmaid's Tale. This shit is depressing.
yeah. Ugh. What else do I have?
Is that it for the end?
That's pretty much
Okay.
it for the Invisible
I
Man.
got a couple of innocents.
Oh, okay.
Why does Miles get expelled from school?
We kind of answered
Yeah, we
that.
did.
Because he hears voices and he started like saying like obscene things to the other kids.
Do you have any innocence ones?
Um,
It's okay if you don't.
I didn't
Because
write
we
it
kind of
down.
went over. This one's not as fun.
Because
I like asking questions of the stupid shit.
Of the stupid stuff, yeah.
So I'm just gonna jump to Frailty.
Okay.
What was Bill Paxton's only other feature-length directing credit?
Oh. I looked it up.
We
the
talked
other day.
about it.
Yeah, we did.
I wouldn't ask these questions if I didn't think you had at least some sort of inkling.
You gotta give me a clue. Can you give me a year?
2008? No, don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. Let me find it for you. 2005.
I don't remember.
Kids movie?
Kids movie.
Sort of.
You're squinting a lot. I don't know.
Shia LaBeouf?
Oh, that's right. The Disney movie, the greatest game ever played, the golf movie,
Yeah.
which I never watched.
Probably.
Probably pretty forgettable, just like Frailty.
What beer
Oh,
did he drink?
yeah, that he drinks like 8 times in the movie. Perfect for the camera. It is Hames.
Yeah.
Yeah.
H-A-M-M.
S. I think that's the right way to say it. Tastes disgusting, by
Not
the way.
hams.
Hames.
Hams. You got anything else for me? You didn't do anything.
For Frailty.
You didn't
No,
do
No, I was so captivated by it.
Invisible Man.
Wow, we really hit it out of the park
Yeah.
here on this first one.
Well, and we deliberately watched some bad movies. I sent that one your way specifically for that reason.
And I care too much about you, Andrew, so I sent you a good movie.
That's not true. So next week, I don't know yet. I don't know.
No, we gotta
I
figure
think
it
I'm gonna
out.
make you watch The Void
Oh,
because I
yeah.
just want to get your opinion on it.
Yeah, the Kickstarter movie.
Was it a Kickstarter?
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah.
But we're gonna come back with 3 brand new films to talk about, and probably interject how much we hated The Invisible Man.
It'll keep coming
Just
back.
taking-
Hey, do you remember that one time in The Invisible Man
Just taking
where
jabs
he?
at it.
Yeah.
Wow, they can't get. They just won't give it a break. Doesn't deserve one. I'm sorry.
Oh man. Where what part? Where he hits the young girl like from really far away. Elizabeth Moss is incredibly far away
Like
from her,
8 feet.
and immediately the girl's like, "Why did you hit
Oh my
me?"
god! He punched me.
Oh yeah.
Did I teleport?
Yeah. Do I have any history of hitting you before this?
No. Instant transmission. Little DBZ reference for you guys
Yeah.
out there. Okay. Well, that's gonna be it for us. Thanks for tuning in. If you tuned in,
You're assuming people are gonna listen.
People.
hey,
One can dream.
just one.
Yeah, one person.
And eventually, we will change things as we go to try and make this as good as possible. And if we get some people listening, that's great. And we'll look for suggestions and for films and otherwise. Otherwise, you got anything?
No, I don't.
Thanks for listening, guys. Check you next time.
Bye.
Bye.